Hello and welcome to Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. It's another beautiful, sunny, almost warm day, and I just want to talk to you in this episode really about this transition period of early to mid-autumn where summer's long gone. We've been preparing for winter in many ways for the last few weeks, but we're nowhere near the winter cold of December, January and February. And it's important not to rush and do things too early. Still time, especially on days like this, to enjoy the garden rather than wrapping everything up too early. And I just want to talk about a few things, few plants that people might be concerned about, but yet not really worth being concerned about yet. Main one really are tree ferns, Dixonia antarcticus, and I have plenty of these in the garden, been growing them for over 10 years or so. And they definitely don't like sustained cold of -5 or below, but light frosts like some people have had so far this winter won't do them any harm whatsoever. Straw in the crown, you can put that in now, or fleece if you prefer, as long as you make sure they don't completely dry out. If you put too much fleece in the top of them is fine at this early stage, but a full cut off of fronds and wrap is probably too early for 99% of the country. They can stand, like I said, -5 is no issue if it's just like a dip down, something like that. If it's sustained cold, which you don't get really in November, then there's no point wrapping them and protecting them too much, because if you wrap them up too much, then you've got probably cause more harm than good, because they can dry out too much if you really wrap them up for too long. Another plant which a lot of people are concerned about are Tetrapanax papyrifera rex, or just Tetrapanax papyrifera, the rice paper plant. And this is a deciduous plant in the UK. It loses its leaves every autumn, so don't panic. If they get frosted, they're going to drop anyway, or if they brown off, because they will die off every winter, really. They might hold a few of the newest leaves in mild winters, but generally they'll lose all the leaves. And again, these can go down to the same sort of temperatures, so -5 is no issue whatsoever. So far in my garden, we've not had any frosts. We had no cold this week. I know down south there was plenty of zeros and -3s and -4s, I think in Oxfordshire and parts of Wales as well. Up here it didn't get lower than 3 or 4 degrees in the coldest part of the night the other day, not a hint of frost anywhere. And it's meant here that I've not had to worry about any other plants, so things that I've left out like the cannas and dahlias, they're still flowering away. They've not been blackened off yet. Obviously if yours have, you can cut them down to the ground, mulch them, or lift them if you prefer. I'm going to keep them flowering in the garden until they get frosted off, and then I'll deal with them then when they do get blackened off by frost. Hopefully not till January, February, more likely in early December. So it's important, especially with Tetrapanax, is not to bring it into the house or wrap it up too early, because it can happily deal with cold temperatures. Mine's gone down to -10 and it's survived no problem. Worst comes to the worst, in a really cold winter, it'll still shoot from the ground, and at this time of year in November we're not going to get sustained cold periods that are going to kill off any Tetrapanax at all. So don't mollycoddle them too much yet. There's plenty of time for the cold weather to come. It's still time to enjoy the garden as much as possible on days like this. One job that I need to be doing, which I haven't done yet, is covering my arid bed, not because it's been cold, but because it rains a lot, and if you can dry these out a bit before any heavy frosts come, all the better. So I've got my agave americana, montana here, leucanthera, and little yucca here as well. And if I cover this bed, it means it'll keep dry over winter, and no snow and ice will penetrate the centre of these plants and potentially rot them off. And underground, where the roots are, again, they can rot off if they get too wet, so it's good to cover some of these plants Some yuccas are much hardier than others, some agaves are much hardier than others. So the Montana probably can cope without any covering, but because it's so close to the Americana, I do decide to cover both of those plants. But on the other side of me, I've got some other arid plants here. So I've got the decilarion that never gets covered, that's fine down to -10. We've got the Faxona over there, and we've got the palm, the European fan palm, that doesn't get covered at all. And again, load of wet weather they won't like, and you can have issues with spotting, potentially rotting off if it's a really wet, cold winter for a very long time. But that can happen to all sorts of plants, just, you know, lavenders and hebes and things like that, which you don't think of as tender. They can, you know, suffer in a wet winter, especially if it's very cold. So what I'm saying is, there's no point protecting these plants because, you know, 90 times out of 100 they'll get through totally fine. And because it's early in the season, we're not in winter yet, it's not December, then I'm not going to start covering everything. And as I look around the garden, other plants I've not protected yet, including the Musa basjoo. Again, you can cover these by now with a straw or fleece. Definitely not wrap them in plastic though, because that will make them sweat. Especially on a warm sunny day like this, it will make condensation and heat build up in there as well, and the water can't get out and it can cause rotting issues that way. So don't cover plants in plastic for ages. But you could protect them now. I'm not going to protect them again till the frost blackens off the foliage, and even then I'll probably just put some straw around the base of those, because if I get a very cold winter then they might get cut down to the ground, but they'll reshoot in spring. And because they're mature plants now, they don't need that protection. Smaller plants with thinner pseudostems definitely wrap up if they're very thin, but these are really chunky, thick plants now, so they don't need all that protection. The stems are fine down to -4 easily. So it's a short programme this week. Just wanted to talk about a few things that you might be thinking about doing, because we're in that transition period, like I said. But next week I will be covering this arid bed and doing other jobs in the garden.